So I know SUI's been all the rage, and this video isn't about SUI. We're just going to use SUI as an example. We're really talking about how do we maximize the upside, especially in a bull run. How can we ride both the price appreciation of an asset or a parent assets and earn ridiculous yields, sometimes to the tune of 300% because there's so much volume flowing through things. So in today's video, Colin's going to kind of talk about, I think you had an accelerator call with some of our group clients, which is an
Did.
awesome program Colin runs. And this question came up. So I think we're going to kind of dive into that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the question is, how do we be in position? How can we be in position to soak up the most profits? That's really where we started with. And one of the lessons that was learned inside the community was getting converted out of the asset that's appreciating in value. And so the example that he gave me was SUI. So let's just look at this very quickly here. Let's go to the 4 hour actually, and let's zoom this. Actually, the 1 day works. So let's do it like that. And basically, what he had here was a range from about $1. Let's mark it right there to about 60 cents, right? So this was his range, and he was rocking and rolling for quite some time in this range here from 60 cents to about $1, earning all these fees in SUI USDC. Now that's got some great yields, some great returns, and good cash flow. But the mistake that we talked through was all of his SUI exposure was in this one
Mm.
position. And because it was paired with a stable coin, there's limited topside potential for price appreciation. Okay, let's walk through it. So everything was rocking and rolling down here. SUI was about 80 cents, and all of a sudden, SUI started running to the top side. It broke resistance here at $1 and just skyrocketed. And so when he got converted fully out of his SUI at $1, he's now sitting fully in USDC. Now, the value of his pool was up, and he generated all these fees. So, yes, there was profits to be made, but it wasn't as much profit as he could have seen if he was just holding SUI. And so something that we talked about on the accelerator call, as well as just in the UIG at large, is how do we be in position to soak up the most in terms of both price appreciation and cash flow? So, Lucas, that makes sense so far.
Hmm.
Yeah. So one of the things that we were talking about is, well, how can we be in position to soak up the most in terms of price appreciation? Because as we can see here, Lucas, let's just draw this really quick. How much did it go from $1 to where it is right now? Look at that, 60 cents. So we went up 60% from the top of his range to where it is sitting at now. And so how do we soak up all of the profits from this point of view? Well, a couple different ways is that you can have single asset exposure. So you could potentially just hold SUI in a cold storage wallet, or you can lend it, right? Those are two options if you just want single asset exposure for this price appreciation. Or you can find correlated pairs. Now, I don't have any specific examples with SUI here, but it's something to think about when you're taking a look at your whole portfolio is where am I getting the exposure to these assets? Is my whole exposure in pairs that are paired with stablecoin? Because if it is, you might, as prices start to run, you might get converted out of that asset if you go out of range, and now you don't have that exposure as prices are moving up. So, I guess one last thing I'll say here, Lucas, is that it's not either or. It's not you have to choose one thing. In fact, I'm going to quote Sean here. Sean Romer, he's a coach for Fast Track. He talks about having a DeFi diet. And what that means is having a series of different positions that give you a different, you know, that make up a different part of your DeFi diet. So you can lend some for single asset exposure. You can have some of your asset inside of a stablecoin pair, which generally cash flows a little bit heavier. And then you can be in correlated pairs as well. Reason why correlated pairs are a good option is that you can generate cash flow, but if you're in a pair with, let's use ETH and Bitcoin, simple example. If you're in a wrap Bitcoin, wrap ETH pool, and those two assets are moving up together in value, you stay in range longer, right? But you're also generating cash flow as you're soaking up price appreciation. And so again, as we build out this DeFi diet, we can have single asset exposure in just holding or in lending positions. We can get into correlated positions with two assets that are tightly moving together in terms of their price action, or we can be in pools that are paired with a stablecoin, generally a little bit more cash flow heavy, but limited top side when it comes to price appreciation. So pros and cons for everything, but just something I wanted to bring to us because, YouTube here is because I think sometimes we get into like an either or, black and white, right or left. And I think it's okay to be in multiple things at once.
Hmm.
Yes, it's a little bit harder to manage, but I want us to profit the most. And profiting the most, in my viewpoint, is going to come from the price appreciation. I've said this a million times on the channel and under UIG. The most, in my viewpoint, my perspective, the
Hmm.
most profit we're going to make is in price appreciation. So we want to make sure that we're in position to do so.
Hmm.
Bonus strategy, Lucas, bonus strategy. If you have your entire holdings of SUI in the SUI USDC pool, which is fine, but what are you doing with the rewards of that
Hmm.
SUI? Lucas, I know you have a video and you talk about this all the time, is that you are taking those SUI as rewards and just stashing them in your lending position. And now you're
Hmm.
having both, right? You have a pool that's a stablecoin pool, which is great
Hmm.
for cash flow, and you take in the rewards, and now you've put that into a place that allows for that price appreciation. So I don't know, a lot of really good things there.
I
But
love that.
yeah. What do you think, Lucas? What do you think?
I am extremely, I'll say this. I like to go through the frame of, and if I'm wrong. And I
Mhm.
like to bet on the fact that I probably will be wrong. And if you can do that, you're going to be much more like cautious and you're going to hedge that. So, yeah, I love this strategy because it's a win-win for me. I'm not picking either or because what if I'm wrong? What if I go all in on a liquidity pool because I think it's going to stay in range forever, but I'm wrong and it shoots up to the upside? Or what if I buy and hold, but it just stays in a range or if it even drops in price? It's like, how can I get the best of both? Well, I can wait till the chaos is done, get into a liquidity pool, earn yields, and then move those yields into lending or into holding the single sided exposure to SUI. And now, whatever happens, especially if you're making 200% and you're in it for 6 months, you've just doubled your position. Or if we were making 400%. So every 2 months, you're doubling your position. I'm in the best of both worlds. And if I'm wrong, which at some point as an investor, I can promise you, you will be wrong. In fact, you might be wrong more than you're right. And if you approach investing with that frame, instead of pretending that you're going to be right all the time, you're going to make a ton of money and it's so easy, you're always going to hedge appropriately. And you're probably going to come out on top. Ignore the YouTube channels where someone just made a fancy bet and won it all on one swing of some meme. Like that's not reality. That's not going to happen. That's like a lottery. And maybe you can allocate some of your resources to the lottery. But for the most part, I know I'm going to be wrong. And if that's the case, like how do I hedge against that? How do I how do I come out on top? So I think you're dead on. The last thing you shared there is like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, both, all, in fact,
Yeah.
yeah, and sometimes you get this question too. Well, because of this massive price appreciation, wouldn't I just have been better just buying and holding? And the answer could be yes, it could be no. We'd have to look into the details of it. But during this entire time, let's go back to
Hmm.
what is this, May
Hmm.
up until here in September. If you're in that liquidity pool, you are generating fees, you are generating rewards, and if you are taking those profits and holding them in SUI tokens, now
Hmm.
you allow those SUI, the more SUI tokens that you've generated in terms of fees, to appreciate in price as well. And so just to bring it one back down, I mean, this is not a shameful thing at all, but it was a great lesson, is that if you have your entire holdings, your entire exposure inside of a liquidity pool with that's paired with a stable coin, all of your holdings, and if you've especially if you've compounded the rewards back in, is that
Yep.
you're just limiting the top side with price appreciation. That's a whole nother conversation, and I'm sure we have videos on the channel, is, hey, what do you do with the
Yep.
profits, with the rewards that you've generated through these last 6 months here? What do you do
Yep.
with them? And that's all. So I think a big thing I talk about is taking those profits and either putting them into a lending position where you can, yield on yield, Lucas, you talk about, or just buying, and just holding
Yep.
those on the sidelines, to allow for nice price appreciation. So lots of different strategies, but I think that the well-rounded DeFi diet is the best approach for
Yep.
cash flow and for price appreciation.
Well, even just to add to that, like your question of what
Mhm.
should I do? Well, it depends. If you got into a liquidity pool here, you did really well. But if you put 100% of your eggs in a basket right before it popped off, then you would probably not do so well. So what I'm saying too is if you're sitting on, let's just say $5,000, you could put $2,500 in a liquidity pool, $2,500 in buy and hold. And if you are wrong, you haven't lost anything. You just got converted to stablecoin and you're sitting just fine. Or if you're right, or if you're not, if it stays in range, then you're just sitting on best of both worlds. So it's not like I think people just have an either or mentality to life, actually, typically black and white. It's not black and white. So
Agreed.
with that said, in the comments, was this video helpful? Is there any follow-up questions you have? If you do, let us know in the comments. This YouTube channel is for you. In fact, this YouTube channel is 100% for you. It's 100% free. We don't monetize on it. We don't run ads. All we ask in return is if you like this video and you're still watching, like it, subscribe, share it with someone. This channel doesn't grow without your support. And with that said, Colin, thanks for your time.
Thank you.